Welcome. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Lars Hyland from Totara, the learning management provider. And I'd like to talk to you today about something I call the reinvention economy. And I think it sort of characterizes the world that we are living in right now. And essentially, really recognizing that a lot of the skills that we are grappling with in our organizations today are not necessarily going to be the skills we're going to need tomorrow. And how do we plan for that? How do we procure our learning platforms and systems? And how do we cope with this world that we're entering? So some of you may know this character, Ray Kurzweil. He actually spoke at this event a couple of years back, but he's been a strong advocate for calling out the fact that change is accelerating and that we're going to experience and are experiencing rapid rates of change in technology. And now we're already seeing that affecting not just isolated sort of sectors, but it's affecting everything across our economy. And indeed, political landscape. Just look at what's happening with Brexit, with Trump. Indeed, the ability to plan ahead and the uncertainty that creates is a challenge for us, and it's a challenge for us arguably as individuals, as employees, and of course as decision makers inside organizations. What this is leading to is a dramatic drop, really, in the lifespan of organizations. Professor Richard Foster of Yale University and McKinsey analyzed the territory around this and recognized that over the past 50 odd years, the average lifespan of organizations has fallen down to 15 years. It used to be sort of 50, 70 year plus. And this rate of change is illustrating that we need organizations to be more agile in their approach, to be able to deal with this sort of the market forces around them and the effects of technology on their sector. So this uncertainty is becoming our only certainty, it feels. And so how do we cope with that? Well, the result of this is that we've got the competitive cycle of products and services is shortening. The need to reinvent the way in which we operate and the way we work is increasingly challenged. I mean, just look at like organizations such as Kodak, Nokia, big brands fairly recently or in the past 5 sort of years, and have disappeared and being replaced by new organizations and new ways of doing things that fundamentally the technology is affecting. So the ability to an organization to have employees or have their staff learn new skills and learn new behaviors and new ways of doing things is absolutely critical to the survival of an organization. And indeed, organizations themselves are changing in the way they're made up. They're no longer purely hierarchical in their decision-making structures. They're very much more network-oriented and increasingly porous. I mean, look at organizations such as Uber, in particular, who have employees, but they're not employees. There's lots of regulatory debate about whether they're employees, and that's creating issues around how do you train, how do you get consistency, how do you get a common level of competency across an organization. So it's changing the way in which we're offering learning to our staff and to us as individuals. In fact, the responsibility of learning is falling more and more on us as individuals, perhaps in the workplace, but also as an organization and as L&D professionals in organizations, we need to be able to support that pace and to support that dynamic. So it's more continuous learning, it's less about being pushing structured, just-in-case type training, and more to a more fluid background, sort of backbone of formal and informal learning that becomes very much embedded into the workflow of your organization. But to achieve that, you do need learning technologies. They need to be much more embedded than they are currently. It's not just good enough to offer catalogs of learning via a learning platform and expect people to turn up and complete these things if they're not seen as relevant, not seen as appropriate to meeting real skills and real needs at a point in time when they can put them into practice. So those effective learning technology skills are really critical, and that's why we're all here today in this event. Now, it's not just me saying this, clearly. There's plenty of other organizations. We've got one of our partners, Deloitte, who have published a global human capital trends report and document in 2016, and they very much characterize this as the new organization that needs to be different by design, and that the four sort of forces of demographic upheaval, technology being everywhere, it's in every single sector now. Every sector is an information technology rather than purely its separate differentiations in the past. The speed that I've been talking about is just exponential, and that the social contract between the employer and the worker is shifting. That nature of being a porous organization. So all these forces are coming together and are driving change at all levels, HR levels and across the board. So in my mind, that means that the learning platforms that we have and the learning architectures that we have need to be more flexible and more agile, and it's not just about the technology, it's about how you procure it and how you access it and how you can adapt as things change, because the business does change more quickly and in more unexpected ways than we can judge. So if our technology is constraining us, then we're not going to be able to respond positively to these changes and remain competitive and remain successful as an organization. So this has, I think, important issues around how we go about procuring technology and our learning platforms. So when change is the business as usual, it's not something exceptional, it's something constant, then the learning infrastructure that you have and the tools that you use needs to be fundamentally flexible. It needs to be under your control within the organization. And it means that how you contract and how you procure that and how you access functional sets for your learning management system and your social learning platforms and your authoring tools, all of these things need to be able to be reassessed and redeployed in response to the market conditions that you find your organization in. So currently, in most cases, it can be quite difficult to adapt, and I'm sure some of your organizations, you experience this, that you're stuck with platforms, you're stuck with technology that doesn't necessarily do what you need it to do, and you're constrained, not just by the feature set, arguably, but you're constrained by the knowledge to achieve those things, but also commercially, perhaps. So which is resulting in quite low satisfaction levels too often with the technology that's there. So it's really crucial, I think, to be able to be thinking about the technology that you're using and being clear that you're in control and that you're not going to be constrained in any unnecessary ways. So rather than maybe a more proprietary approach, which usually demands a one-size-fits-all sort of thinking, increasingly starts to feel like one-size-fits-none, because you need to differentiate, you need to be able to specialize and respond quickly and agilely to the market that your organization is serving. If it's too fixed in its feature set, that's going to change. Any change that occurs is going to be challenging that fixed feature set, and you may not be able to deliver the solutions that you need to make the difference to your employees. It becomes increasingly costly to extend or integrate those systems as well. And seriously, the sort of pace at which you can implement those systems, if they're too slow, if the changes that we're experiencing are anything faster than 2 years, which, let's face it, they are. I mean, the sort of experiences that we're having now feels like it's almost weekly or monthly in terms of the decisions that our businesses are trying to make in grappling with the wider changes in the market. You need to be able to know that the technology infrastructure, the investments that you're making can respond to that, and you can do that quickly. So the idea of having inflexible long contracts may be a real challenge to that, and it may well end up leading to impeding your ability to innovate and be agile. So how do we characterize that? Well, in in my case, what I suggest is that we're moving from that old world of learning being just in case to one where it's much more continuous, it's much more sewn into the workplace and workflow, and you need tools that enable you to do that, and that you're able to adjust your focus to the changing hierarchical structures of your, or the network, the sort of interactions and interrelationships of your people and staff quickly and easily, and that your platform needs to be able to do that. That you're not being reactive, that you're being proactive with the learning that's needed out there, that it's demand-led and not just a series of catalogued prescribed learning. There's a balance to be had there. That it's not generic, one size doesn't fit all at all, that it's you're able to tap into expertise that is aligned to your sector, aligned to your needs as an organization, that it's differentiated, that it's not proprietary, that it's open. And what I mean by that is not just necessarily open source, it's an open architecture that allows you to be in control, allows you to extend and adapt and change the way in which your investment is made, so that it becomes accumulative, not a stop-start. Too many times we invest, we develop our platforms, we roll them out as best we can. It takes 2 years perhaps to achieve that, by which time all of the business requirements have shifted and changed, and then we re-procure, and then we restart. That's not really making a huge positive impact to your organization and your people and your ability to respond effectively. So an alternative to that is being able to think about your investment, that it is within your control, that you can shift focus, that it's an accumulative effect, you're not throwing everything away, that you're in a position to be able to build on your investments and shift with the tide as required by the market forces that surround you. It's a much more sustainable sort of model, and the cost of ownership of that is going to be strategically a lot less than the old way of doing things. So, if we consider that, open software does give you that control. It means that any partner organizations that you work with, say if it was Totara, then those services meet your business needs as they are now. When the business needs do change, you can add the functionality that you need, you can integrate with different systems and other systems more easily and more flexibly at the time you need, not when a vendor says, that you can scale up, you can scale back down if you have to, you can switch to type of services and mix of skills that you need as it fits your needs as an organization. So one set of specialist skills may be required for this period of time, but at a later date you may need to take it elsewhere, or tap into other skill sets too, and maybe collaborate together. Equally, you can also take control and bring it in-house. So that really means that the investment is accumulative. It means that you do get and achieve a lower cost of ownership, and that the solutions are aligned to meet those real needs as they evolve at this ever-accelerating rate. So just a little bit about Totara itself in terms of how we're attempting to do that. We have 1,100 organizations achieving this. We've got 8 million users base, operating in 47 countries and in 25 languages. And having an expert partner network around the world that has these expert specialist skills that can tap in to meet your specific organization's needs gives you that control to be able to deliver to those business requirements as they evolve. And you can learn more about those successes. We have 130 of them on our website, which I'll give you a link to later. One example is AJ Bar, and an interesting quote here, that as a result of investing in this platform, they are able to be thinking about the future, and they can adapt and really leverage the flexibility of the platform itself as those needs shift and change. So they're in a better position to reinvent the way in which they're learning and offering their learning services as a result. So certainly one for you to look at in a bit more detail. Equally, Sky, another great example. Here, it's very clear that they've got an idea around how their learning needs to be presented to their staff, and that they want a system that is very much targeted around Sky products, and being able to access that at the point of need, and having a platform and a system that is flexible enough to adapt to different ways of interacting with it is really, really key and important. And when those needs shift, and they will, then they are in a position to do that, working with their partner. So there's many more of these case studies around this this auditorium. We've got a number here, which I'd encourage you to go and take a look at. There's a floor plan around that has all of these listed, and I'd encourage you to take a look. We've got Brian Gaskill at Virgin Care, who will be on later, and we have tomorrow Halford's talking up in the conference, and we have Sam Morgan of Learning Pool, who are just here next to you here, who will have a lot to share with you about how the Totara LMS itself can work and evolve to meet your specific needs. There's a lot of sector guides that we have as well, which illustrate how you can differentiate with our platform and meet specific requirements. So whether you're in the not-for-profit sector, government, retail sector, healthcare, whether you're looking to migrate from one platform to another, there's some expertise that we're able to share. So please do go to the website totaralearning.com/resources to get more on that. And while you're here, please do visit our partners. You'll see them dotted around the auditorium. I've got Learning Pool, as I say, just here next to you. Catalyst in the other area. Synergy are just over here to my right. And Web Anywhere are in the other auditorium. Kineo just over there at the back, and Engaging Learning too. So they all have different specialist skills that I think that you'll be able to learn a lot more about Totara. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found that useful, and I wish you a good learning technologies. Take care.